My wife ended up unconscious in another man's bed. And the hospital called me to pick up the pieces. That's the moment I realized I'd been living with a stranger. I swear, I almost dropped my phone when I got that call. It was a nurse from the hospital, and she said my wife had been admitted after an incident. My first thought was a car accident. But then she said something that stopped me cold. She was found unconscious at a private residence. Paramedics were called by someone who refused to identify themselves. She's stable, but you need to come right away. I asked for the address. When she gave it to me, I froze. That wasn't our home. That wasn't even her best friend's. It was in a part of town I didn't recognize, and I'd been with her for 10 years. Married for 5. That address didn't belong in any part of our lives. So yeah, my heart dropped. But not because she was in the hospital. Something didn't sit right. I got in my car and drove like my brain had split into pieces. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready at all. When I got to the hospital, they sent me to the ICU. I found her lying in a bed, looking pale, hooked up to machines, motionless. The nurse asked if I was her husband. I said yes, and she handed me a clipboard with release forms and notes from the ER. That's when I read the words foreign object injury and possible asphyxiation due to restraint play. My knees almost buckled. I just stood there, numb, trying to process the fact that my wife, my freaking wife, was found half naked, unresponsive, in another man's bed. And not just any man. A man who clearly didn't care enough to stick around after whatever fun they were having went horribly wrong. The nurse must have seen my face. She gently pulled me aside and whispered that the paramedics found her tied up, unconscious, with something still inside her. She didn't say what. She just looked at me with those eyes full of pity and kept her voice soft like she was talking to someone at a funeral. I didn't ask more. I didn't want more. What I already knew was enough to knock the wind out of me. I sat in the waiting area for an hour trying to wrap my head around it. I didn't even cry. I just stared at the wall like someone had punched a hole through my chest. I kept replaying the last few weeks in my head. How nothing seemed wrong. How she kissed me goodbye before work. How she'd talk about baby names. We'd even started looking at houses. I thought we were happy. God, what a joke. I walked back into the room. Looked at her, lying there like she was asleep. I felt this coldness take over me. Like something broke, and I couldn't fix it. I didn't yell. I didn't rage. I just opened the drawer next to her bed and dropped her phone into my pocket. Then I walked out and sat in my car, shaking. I unlocked her phone. Same code she always used. It was all there. Messages. Photos. Videos. Whole conversations with a man named Jay. Dirty messages. Plans to meet up. Talk about how I was too boring, too stable, too safe. She said she loved the thrill. That he made her feel alive. Meanwhile, I was out here grinding 2 jobs, trying to give us a future. I dropped the phone. Let it hit the floor of the passenger seat. I didn't even bother picking it up. I drove home in silence. Walked through our front door like I was breaking into my own life. Then I grabbed my laptop and started changing every password we had. Bank accounts. Insurance. I called my attorney friend and asked him what I needed to do to legally cut her off financially. He said I'd need to act fast before she could claim joint ownership. Told me exactly what steps to take. I followed every single one. By the time the sun came up, I'd locked her out of everything. Bank, credit, car title, even the utilities. I called her job and let them know she was in the hospital, but not to contact me. Then I wrote a short note. All trust is gone. I'm not paying for your betrayal. Don't come home. I left it on the kitchen counter. Next morning, I blocked her number. She hasn't seen me since. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in my living room, lights off, thinking about everything. Every memory felt tainted. Every smile, every kiss, every I love you sounded fake now. At around 6 a.m., I heard a ping from her phone still lying on my passenger seat. I brought it inside, not because I cared, but because I wanted to see what kind of damage I was really dealing with. Curiosity mixed with pain is a hell of a combo. The text was from a J. It said, "You okay? Did they find out?" No name. No concern. Just some coward texting like nothing had happened. Like she'd just slept through a dentist appointment, not wound up in intensive care because of his recklessness. I didn't respond. But I scrolled. And what I found made everything worse. She told him she loved him. She called him baby. She talked about moving in together. She said she felt trapped with me. I couldn't even breathe reading it. It's like watching a life you thought was real vanish in real time. She told him she hated how predictable I was. That I worked too much. That I wasn't fun. But let me ask you something, how fun is paying rent on time? Keeping groceries in the fridge? Fixing the garbage disposal at midnight because she clogged it with chicken bones? I guess boring old me wasn't spontaneous enough for her. I sat there gripping her phone until my hand started shaking. I thought about smashing it. Throwing it against the wall. But I didn't. I needed it as evidence. And deep down, I wanted her to know I saw it all. By noon, the hospital called again. They said she was awake. I didn't answer. They left a voicemail saying she was asking for me. I deleted it. She was lucky I didn't forward it to her family. I knew they'd ask questions soon. Her mom liked to pretend we were the perfect couple. Always bragging about us on Facebook. So I typed out a polite message and sent it to her. Hi, just letting you know your daughter's in the hospital. Please call them directly. No emotion. No drama. Let her mom dig through the mess if she wanted. I was done being the cleanup crew. Around 3 p.m., I packed a bag and drove to a hotel across town. I needed distance. Not just physical space, but emotional silence. My phone stayed on silent the whole time. I knew she'd start texting eventually. Sure enough, at 4:42 p.m., she finally did. Sarah, I just woke up. Where are you? Please, come see me. Then another one a few minutes later. Sarah, I'm scared. I don't remember everything. What happened? Then a third that made my blood boil. Sarah, it wasn't what it looked like. Please talk to me. Please. I didn't reply. She wanted me to come hold her hand after getting caught in another man's bed? Now. She could ask him to visit. Oh wait, he ran. Coward didn't even ride in the ambulance. Just called 911, panicked, and bounced. That's who she risked everything for. Over the next few hours, the texts got more desperate. Sarah, please. I love you. Don't do this. Sarah, they told me you were here earlier. Please come back. Sarah, we can fix this. Each message hit harder than the last. Not because they made me reconsider. But because they showed how far gone she really was. She honestly thought there was still something left to save. At 9 p.m., she sent the last one I saw before turning off the phone. Sarah, if you love me, you'll forgive me. That's what real love is. No. Real love doesn't involve betrayal. Real love doesn't leave you half dead on another man's floor. I turned the phone off. I looked in the mirror of the hotel bathroom, and for the first time since this all started, I whispered the words I'd been too afraid to say out loud. She's not the woman I thought she was. And just like that, it hit me. I wasn't grieving a person. I was grieving a lie. The next morning, I woke up in that hotel bed feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Not physically, emotionally. It was that weird emptiness that follows a breakdown. Like my heart had cried itself out and left nothing but numb silence behind. I didn't turn her phone back on. I didn't check mine either. I just sat at the little desk in the room staring out the window at nothing in particular. For a while, I just kept repeating the same question over and over in my head. Why? Why throw away a solid marriage for some fantasy? Why risk everything with a man who clearly didn't even care enough to stay? Why lie to my face while pretending to love me every single day? I couldn't make the math work. And I'm the kind of guy who needs the math to work. By 10 a.m., I packed up, checked out of the hotel, and drove to my buddy Matt's place. He's the only one I trusted enough to let in on what happened. We've known each other since college. And if there's one thing Matt's good at, it's calling BS when he sees it. I sat on his couch for half an hour before I could even get the words out. He listened without interrupting once. Then he leaned back, looked me straight in the eye, and said something I'll never forget. You didn't lose a wife. You dodged a lifetime of lies. That hit harder than I expected. Because he was right. If that hospital call had never happened, if her little games didn't go sideways, I'd still be walking around thinking I had a faithful partner. I'd still be planning vacations, decorating nurseries, naming future kids. And meanwhile, she'd be sneaking off to motel rooms with her Jay. God, what a joke. Matt offered to let me crash there as long as I needed. I thanked him, but I already knew what I had to do next. I needed to go home. Not because I missed her. But because it was my house. My life. And she'd already taken enough from me. When I got back, it felt like walking into a crime scene. Everything was exactly how I left it. Her shoes by the door. Her coffee mug in the sink. Her sweater on the back of the chair. It all felt haunted. I grabbed a couple trash bags and started tossing her stuff into them. Not in a rage, just methodically. Cold. Mechanical. Like I was removing an infection. All her things went in the guest room. I didn't want to see them. Didn't want to feel them around me. I opened our closet and stared at the empty side that used to be mine. It used to be ours. Now it looked like a museum of betrayal. That night, I finally called her sister. She and I had never been close, but I figured someone needed to know where Sarah was and what the hell was going on. I gave her the basics. Told her Sarah was out of the hospital, but she wasn't coming back here. I said the marriage was over. And I told her, very clearly, that I didn't want to be contacted by Sarah or anyone else in the family trying to fix things. Her sister was quiet at first. Then she said she was sorry. That none of them knew what Sarah was doing behind my back. I didn't believe her. Not fully. But I appreciated that she didn't try to talk me out of it. Later that night, I got curious. Against my better judgment, I turned her phone back on. Big mistake. There were 37 unread messages. All from her. Some were apologetic. Some were angry. Some were straight up manipulative. Sarah, you're just going to walk away after everything we've built? Sarah, you can't even talk to me like a man? Sarah, I made a mistake, but I didn't mean for it to go that far. That last one stuck with me. Because it confirmed something I'd suspected all along. She wasn't sorry she cheated. She was sorry it messed up her life. By the end of that week, something in me had hardened. Not out of bitterness, but out of survival. I knew if I let her talk to me, really talk, she'd start spinning the same charm she always used. The soft voice, the trembling lip, the you know I love you eyes. But I also knew what lived underneath it now. So I blocked her number. I blocked her email. And I called a locksmith. The locks on our doors were changed by sundown, and I slept better that night than I had in days. There's something deeply calming about reclaiming your space. About knowing the person who betrayed you no longer has a key to your life. That weekend, Matt helped me haul a bunch of her stuff to a storage unit. I paid for 1 month. That was it. I texted her sister the code and said she had 30 days to get everything. After that, it was out of my hands. Matt didn't ask many questions. He just drove the truck and offered cold beers afterward. That's the kind of friend he is, doesn't say much, just shows up when it matters most. By Sunday, I had the house almost completely to myself again. It was weird how quiet it felt. No random hair ties on the counter. No perfume scent in the hallway. No passive-aggressive notes on the fridge. Just peace. But peace can be uncomfortable when you've lived in chaos too long. The silence made me think. And thinking led me to places I didn't want to go. Like that vacation we took to Seattle when she said she'd never been happier. Or the time I stayed up all night making soup because she had the flu and didn't want takeout. Were those moments real? Or was I just playing a role in her carefully crafted image of the good life, while she chased excitement behind my back? That question haunted me more than anything. Because it made me question myself. My judgment. My instincts. My ability to know who someone really is. I didn't tell my parents right away. I didn't want to deal with the questions, the pity, the what can we do to help conversations. But eventually, I had to. So I called my mom on a Monday evening and told her everything. I tried to keep it short, but halfway through, my voice cracked. She didn't say much, just listened. When I was done, she said the words I needed most: you don't have to explain why you left. You just had to. I hadn't realized how heavy the guilt was until she said that. Guilt that I was giving up. Guilt that I was throwing away years of love, holidays, anniversaries. But that guilt didn't belong to me. It belonged to Sarah. A few days later, she tried to reach out again, but this time through a mutual friend. Lisa. Lisa texted me out of the blue. Lisa, hey, Sarah's devastated. She says you won't talk to her. Is it really over? I didn't reply at first. I just stared at the message for a good 10 minutes. Then I wrote back. She cheated. Repeatedly. Lied. Nearly died in another man's house. I'm done. Lisa didn't respond. Honestly, I think she was just as shocked as everyone else. From the outside, we looked solid. No drama. No fights. Just a normal couple. But I guess that's what made it easier for Sarah to hide. She knew I wouldn't suspect anything. She knew I trusted her too much. That trust was the weapon she used against me. And that realization? That's what finally made me stop wondering why. It didn't matter anymore. Some people betray you simply because they can. About 2 weeks after I blocked her, I got served. It was a Tuesday morning. I was leaving for work when a guy in a windbreaker walked up my driveway holding a manila envelope like he was delivering pizza. "You John?" he asked. I nodded. "You've been served." Just like that. He handed me the envelope, turned around, and walked off like it was nothing. I stood there in the cold with my coffee spilling onto my shoes, holding the paperwork. I knew what it was before I opened it. Divorce papers. Filed by her. Not me. Not the guy who was betrayed, lied to, left in the dark. No. She was the one ending it legally. That stung in a way I wasn't ready for. I wasn't sure if I should laugh or scream. The woman who got caught cheating, who nearly died in another man's bed, decided she was the victim. I took the envelope inside and read it at the kitchen table. No demands. No accusations. Just a quiet, clean cut. She didn't want alimony. Didn't ask for the house. Not even a car. Just the divorce. It hit me then, this was her way of taking control. She couldn't fix what happened, so she tried to rewrite the ending. If she ended it, then maybe she wouldn't look like the villain. But I wasn't going to play along. I called my lawyer that afternoon. Told him I wanted to respond and finalize as quickly as possible. I didn't want money. Didn't want revenge. I just wanted my name cleared and my peace protected. By the end of the week, the paperwork was signed and submitted. That night, I poured myself a drink for the first time in a while. Just one. Sat on the porch and listened to the night sounds. I thought I'd feel broken. Or angry. Or hollow. But I felt relief. Not happiness. Not closure. Just air in my lungs again. The next morning, I opened her phone one last time. I hadn't touched it since that first week, but something told me I needed to take one final look. I went back through the messages with Jay. And something weird stood out. There were gaps. Missing texts. Deleted chunks of conversations. Curious, I checked her photo album. There were videos in a hidden folder. One of them started with her laughing, lying on a hotel bed, saying, "This is so wrong, but it feels so right." I paused it. My stomach turned. Then I watched more. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to understand who she really was. She wasn't confused. She wasn't swept away by some whirlwind. She knew exactly what she was doing. The games. The lies. The betrayal. All intentional. That was the final nail in the coffin. I factory reset the phone. Dropped it in a box with a storage key. Texted her sister and said, "This is the last thing of hers. I don't want it anymore." That was it. I was done. No more wondering if she'd change. No more hoping she'd apologize. No more thinking about who she used to be. Because now, I knew who she really was. And the version of her I married never existed. It's strange how fast the world forgets your pain when you pretend you're fine. A month after the papers were signed, people started treating me like I should have moved on by now. I'd show up to work, smile through meetings, crack a joke here and there, and that was enough for everyone to assume I'd bounce back. But every time I walked into an empty house, it hit me all over again. She was everywhere. Not just in the pictures I hadn't taken down yet, but in the smallest things. Her handwriting on a sticky note inside the pantry, "Buy oat milk, smiley face." A faint perfume smell on the jacket she left hanging by the stairs. An old grocery list tucked in the glove box of her car, still parked in the driveway because she never came back for it. The hardest part? I didn't hate her. I wanted to. God, I wanted to so badly. But what I felt was worse. I felt nothing. Like she'd hollowed me out and left just enough pieces behind to function. I went through the motions. Paid bills. Did laundry. Cooked frozen meals. Even signed up for a gym membership because I thought maybe sweating would help shake the grief loose. But I still had nights where I'd wake up in a cold sweat, thinking she was next to me. Reach out half asleep and touch empty sheets. That feeling? It never stops cutting. Matt kept checking in, bless him. He'd invite me out, try to get me to meet people, join him at the bar, even set me up with this girl he knew from his office. I declined every time. I wasn't ready. And I wasn't sure I ever would be. But then something happened. It was a Sunday. I'd gone for a drive just to get out of the house and ended up by the river. There's this old walking trail near the dock where the water's calm and the air feels different. I parked the car and just started walking. No music. No distractions. Just the crunch of gravel under my boots and the sound of birds overhead. That's when I saw this older guy fishing off the pier. He nodded at me as I passed, then said, "You look like you've been through something." I laughed. "Is it that obvious?" He smiled and said, "Only to people who've been through it too." I didn't know why, but I sat down beside him. We didn't talk much at first. Just watched the water. Then, out of nowhere, I told him everything. Not in graphic detail, but enough. Enough that he understood. When I finished, he just looked out at the river and said, "It hurts because you were honest." She wasn't. That one sentence broke something open in me. It reminded me that I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't lie. I didn't cheat. I didn't fake a life while living another behind someone's back. I loved her. And she didn't love me back the same way. That wasn't a reflection of my worth. It was a reflection of hers. He packed up his gear not long after and gave me a pat on the shoulder. "Time helps," he said. "But truth heals." And then he walked off like some movie character written just for that one scene. But man, it stuck with me. That night, I finally did something I'd been avoiding. I took down every picture of her. Every framed smile. Every posed vacation selfie. Every anniversary dinner shot that used to mean something. I boxed them all up. Not to burn. Not to shred. Just to store. Because she didn't deserve a fire. She didn't deserve rage. She deserved removal. Like an infection you cut out, quietly, precisely, and completely. And when I woke up the next morning, I didn't feel whole. But I finally felt free. 2 months after the divorce, I ran into her by accident. It was a grocery store of all places. I was grabbing frozen pizzas and Gatorade, and there she was, standing in the wine aisle like she belonged there. Same coat. Same smug, effortless posture. She saw me before I saw her. I knew because she said my name. Softly. Like we were old friends. "John." I turned around, and my stomach did a weird flip. Not because I missed her. Not because I wanted her. But because her face was exactly the same while everything about her had changed for me. She walked over like nothing had happened. Smiling. Like this was some reunion. I stood still. Said nothing. "You look good," she said. "Healthier." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. "You almost died in another man's bed," I said. "And that's your opener?" Her smile froze. Just for a second. Then she shifted into that wounded look I remembered so well. The one she used when she wanted to twist the story. I never got to explain. "You did," I cut in. "You just weren't talking to me." She went quiet. "I'm sorry," she said after a pause. "For everything." I nodded. Not because I forgave her, but because I was done needing anything from her. "You look good too," I said, then turned to leave. She stepped forward. "Wait, do you hate me?" I turned back. Looked her right in the eye. "No. But I don't care enough to." And that was the truth. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want closure. I didn't even want answers. I just wanted distance. She stood there, holding a bottle of wine like it was a shield. I walked away. Never looked back. By the time I got home, there was a message waiting for me. Not from her. From Jay. Yeah. Him. Somehow, he found my email. Said he wanted to apologize. Said he didn't know she was married. Said she told him I was basically out of the picture. I stared at the message for a solid minute. Then I wrote back. "Thanks. Don't care. Stay gone." That was it. I wasn't interested in sympathy from the man who helped tear my life apart, even if he didn't know it at the time. He replied again. I deleted it. Some bridges don't need to burn. They just need to be erased. After that, I started changing things. Little things, at first. New sheets. New furniture layout. New playlists. Then I got rid of our bed entirely. Sold it on Craigslist to some newlyweds who were all smiles and fresh hopes. Let them have it. I bought a new one. For me. I stopped checking her socials. Blocked mutuals who kept tagging us in her memory posts. I was tired of the algorithm pulling ghosts into my life. And slowly, I started doing things that felt like mine again. Went hiking with Matt. Played poker on Thursdays with some co-workers. Rejoined a local rec league I'd quit when we got married. I even caught myself smiling a few times. Not because I was over it, but because I was recovering. There's a difference. Being over it means forgetting. Recovering means remembering and healing anyway. A few weeks after that grocery store run-in, I got invited to a wedding. Not just any wedding, Matt's sister. And since Matt had been in my corner since day one, I felt like I owed him the courtesy of showing up. I hadn't been to a wedding since ours. And walking into that venue brought everything back. The champagne toasts. The awkward small talk. The forced smiles during photo ops. But this one was different. Because this time, I was just a guest. No pressure. No performance. I walked in alone. Dressed sharp. Not to impress anyone, but because I wanted to feel like someone new. Someone healed. Or at least healing. Matt greeted me with a hug and a beer. "You doing okay?" he asked. "Better than I deserve," I said, and he laughed. The ceremony was short and sweet. You could tell the couple actually liked each other. None of that stiff, scripted affection. Just genuine energy. It reminded me that love isn't supposed to feel like work all the time. It's supposed to feel like breathing. Natural. Honest. At the reception, I sat at a table with a bunch of strangers. One of them was a woman named Elise. Red dress. Quiet smile. She asked if I was Matt's friend, and I said yeah. That we went way back. She laughed and said, "That explains the beard." I smiled. First time in a while someone made me feel light. We talked. Just talked. No flirting. No pressure. No awkward silences. We didn't even exchange numbers. But when I left that night, I realized something. For the first time since everything went down, I didn't feel broken. I felt open. I wasn't thinking about Sarah. I wasn't replaying the betrayal. I wasn't angry or bitter or sad. I was just present. And that mattered more than anything. The next morning, I drove to the river again. Sat by the dock. Watched the water like I did that day with the old fisherman. But this time, I didn't feel heavy. I felt clear. That's when I finally said it out loud, just whispered it to the wind. She doesn't own my story anymore. And she didn't. She was a chapter. Not the whole book. A painful, chaotic, brutal chapter, but not the end. And maybe the next part wouldn't be some fairy tale. Maybe there wouldn't be love again for a while. Maybe not ever. But there would be peace. And that was enough. A few months later, I came home to a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Handwritten. Thin envelope. I opened it on the porch, assuming it was junk. But the handwriting stopped me cold. It was hers. Sarah. The first line, "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from." She was right. The letter wasn't long. Just one page. Front only. She said she was sorry. Said she'd started therapy. That she'd been living with a cousin out of town and trying to figure out who she really is. She didn't ask for anything. Not forgiveness. Not contact. She just wrote, "I never expected you to take me back. But I needed you to know. I ruined something good. And I know that now." I folded the letter slowly. Sat with it for a while. Then I burned it. Not out of rage. Not to be dramatic. But because it wasn't for me. It was for her. A final piece of her guilt, delivered like a confession. But I didn't need it. I'd already let go. And the weirdest part? I hoped she meant it. Not because I wanted her back. Not because I wished her well. But because if someone's going to destroy everything and survive the wreckage, they should at least learn something. That night, I pulled out a notebook I'd been meaning to write in. First page, I wrote, "Here's who I am now." And I made a list. Not of goals. Not of dreams. Just truths. I don't settle. I listen to my gut. I forgive, but I remember. I value peace over partnership. I'd rather be alone than lied to. Simple. Quiet. Honest. I tucked it in my nightstand. And I slept better than I had in a year. The past didn't haunt me that night. Because I finally believed it, deep in my bones. It wasn't my fault. She made her choice. And I made mine. I was standing in the kitchen, making coffee. Same machine I'd used for years. Same exact steps. But that morning, something felt different. I realized I wasn't bracing for a text. or waiting for a door to slam, or wondering if some secret was hiding right behind a smile. There was no tension in my shoulders, no pressure in my chest, just stillness. And in that stillness, I finally found myself again. Not the version of me I was with her. Not the guy who kept sacrificing little pieces of himself to keep the peace. The real me. The one who survived it all. I took that coffee out onto the porch. It was still early, sun just rising. Birds doing their usual chatter. And for once, I didn't feel like the main character in a tragedy. I felt like a man who made it through. People say healing is a journey. They make it sound poetic. But healing is brutal. Ugly. Quiet. It's waking up in an empty bed and not reaching for the other side anymore. It's sitting through the holidays with family asking where she is and saying, she's gone, without flinching. It's deleting old playlists. Returning wedding gifts. Learning how to cook for one. But healing is also this. A morning where the air is light. The silence is kind. And the future finally feels like something you get to shape. Not her. Not the past. You. Matt and I still talk every week. He jokes that I need to start dating again, but he doesn't push. He knows I'm not rushing anything. I'm not afraid to fall in love again. But I'm not chasing it either. If it comes, it comes. But now, I know who I am without anyone else defining me. And that's more valuable than anything I lost. Sarah will always be a scar in my story. But scars aren't open wounds. They're reminders. That you survived. That you learned. And that you healed. So that's where I'll leave it. Not with some dramatic twist. Not with revenge or reconciliation. Just with truth. She broke me. And I rebuilt. Better. Stronger. Wiser.